Hello and welcome to the True Worth podcast. I'm Monique Beadles and today my guest is Sharon Natoli. I've known Sharon for a few years and she's got a very interesting background and she's doing some amazing work helping aspiring leaders to ignite their influence by speaking up with confidence. So Sharon offers coaching, training and mentoring, and it takes people on a journey from silence, hesitance and holding back to gaining confidence, influence and presence at work. Sharon also works with leaders to create the conditions that make speaking up easier for team members, assisting organisations to bring a greater diversity of voices to the leadership table, which in turn creates better and more effective innovation and collaboration. Sharon has 30 years experience in communications, media, public relations, speaking, presenting and authoring, and a 25-year history in behaviour change counselling. She's the New South Wales Chair of the G100, a global initiative creating an equal, progressive and inclusive environment for women worldwide, and is a member of the leadership team for Women with Altitude. Sharon combines her professional expertise in communication with her personal empathy and understanding about the challenges associated with speaking up, exerting influence, to assist her clients own their power by owning their voice. Sounds amazing. So welcome, Sharon. It's fantastic to have you here and really excited to hear about the work that you're doing in helping people to find their voice.
Thanks, Monique.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And look, there's a lot there. And as we were just saying before we came on, you're working on a book at the moment too, on why smart people don't speak up.
Yes.
So it'd be great to hear a little bit more about that as we go along too. So look, just to start with, why is speaking up important to you, or how have you come to the place where you've decided that this is important work that you need to do?
Yes, it's been a bit of a journey for me to get here, and probably the short answer to that would be having done a lot of work professionally in communications and the media, the PR, the spokesperson work and speaking, as you mentioned. I had a little bit of an insight a couple of years ago, just as to how that professional competency contrasts with my personal challenge around speaking up for myself, which has been present there in the background throughout my life. And I had this epiphany moment, really, if you like, thinking, well, that's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? That if I take away the topic in terms of what I was speaking about and look at, well, what's my career been about? It has always been about communicating, helping companies to develop key messages, helping them to connect meaningfully with their markets.
Yeah.
And so now what I do is I use that professional competency combined with my personal empathy and understanding about what it's like to struggle to speak up for yourself, particularly in areas like asking for what you want or speaking up in the presence of someone with more perceived power, to help people to find their voice, to be able to live more fully self-expressed in terms of being able to share what's on their mind, ask for what they want, have their needs met, and to do that though as their authentic self. So connecting with yourself. So really it's about self-expression and self-connection, those two things coming together.
Yes, which is a bit different to, as you've said, your past experience with perhaps being a spokesperson for somebody else, talking about someone else and what's great about them, or a product or a service or what have you. But it's different when we need to then talk about ourselves, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yes. And I think that's why I was so comfortable speaking about, the topic of food and nutrition. That's my background. It's kind of sharing messages around that, talking to the science or putting the science into a way that people could understand, or speaking on behalf of companies and products or nutrition issues. That's all very comfortable for me. And but when it comes to asking yes for what I want, or really connecting in with, well, what are my wants and needs, and how do and articulating that and sort of valuing myself, it's a whole nother kettle of fish. And that was the real epiphany kind of moment, where I realized just the contrast about that, and possibly what drew me into the whole communication area in the first place was just that interest in I guess the power of words and the power of speaking and the value of that, but unconsciously being attracted to that kind of work, because it helped me to learn how to do that, but in a safe way, you know. So now it's taking those skills and going, okay, how can I use that to help people to really say what's on their mind, and to ask for what they want, and do all of those things, and to have the confidence to do that, which then helps us to grow our influence.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, having come through that journey yourself, then you can relate to those people who are, you know, at a particular stage where they're still challenged by doing that and need some support and help around how they might do that. So I think it is probably hard for a lot of people. And do you think that people underestimate the value of making the effort to speak up? And if so, why might that be?
Yes, look, I think we do underestimate it from the perspective of letting ourselves off the hook. So as humans, we like to stay in a zone of comfort, and it's comfortable to sit in silence and or to sit back and agree with what others are saying, or to, you know, to say yes, even if we might mean no. It's sort of, you know, we don't like to feel as though we might be rocking the boat, or standing up and speaking up is like standing out. You know, we don't want to stand out, we want to fit in. And so what we can often do is, you know, we might have something to say, or a thought pops into our mind, and we might go, oh no, I don't think it's not the right time for that, or maybe someone else is going to say what I want to say anyway, so I'll just wait, I'll let someone else go first. And then that doesn't happen, all right, and our message doesn't come out, we don't put our hand up, we don't lean in, and we walk out and we go, why didn't I say that? You know, why didn't I say what was on my mind? I missed my opportunity. And so there's that thing. So we start beating ourselves up. Or we let ourselves off the hook in terms of saying, well, it probably didn't matter anyway. I'll say it next time. That's okay. I'll follow up later. And it doesn't really matter that much anyway. And so we then make excuses for ourselves. And so we're either beating ourselves up or letting ourselves off. And either way, we're not saying, you know, we're not expressing ourselves. And so basically what we're doing is we're giving our power away to others to hold the floor, to say what they want to say, to put their perspective forward. And so wherever we're doing that, wherever we're not owning our voice, then we're not owning our power, because there's a direct relationship between the two. When you own your voice, you own your power. But specifically, you know, being able to speak authentically.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the ways that you think we can do that to improve our confidence, or get over that, whatever it is that's holding us back from speaking up?
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but if I had to sort of summarize it, I guess in a short way, it's really about taking action. Action builds confidence. Often I think we might say, I need to be more confident before I do that. I need to have the confidence to kind of stand up and speak in front of a group, or to put my hand up. But it's a little bit like saying I need to be fit before I go to the gym, right? You actually go to the gym to get fit. And so being in action helps. However, it's got to be small, achievable actions, so that you're building your confidence and not eroding it. And one of the things that stops us, you know, a big thing that stops us speaking up is fear. And fear, you know, is a response of our nervous system. And so if someone says to you, if you say, I'm nervous about speaking or putting my hand up or doing this presentation, and someone says, well, just find the courage to do it, you know, just be yourself and they'll love you, or just take a few deep breaths and you'll be right. It's not actually as helpful as saying, I am safe, like I'm safe
Yes.
in this environment, and reassuring yourself that you're safe to help calm your nervous system to speak. And so, yeah, going back to the point of action, if the action is stretching you, but not putting your nervous system into overload, then that's how you can build confidence. So just taking those, what's the smallest thing that I could do today that helps move me, forward in terms of this hard thing that I want to do, and therefore that
Yeah.
helps me to build my confidence.
Yeah. And can that include things like creating opportunities for yourself to, in fact, in an environment where you can speak up, or something that you want to speak up about? Is that one of the things that you would suggest, or that people can do to build that confidence?
Yes, for sure. So, but it's putting yourself in environments where you do feel safe enough to do that. And yeah, look, that's exactly one reason why I started the self-confidence circle, which was
Right.
the group we meet. We learn something, we have an insight, we learn some theory, and then we meet a couple of weeks later to put it into action. And
Yeah.
it's a safe space that people can work on, speaking in front of a small group, or doing a role play around speaking to their boss or someone in power, that helps them to take those actions that build the confidence, the feeling of confidence. And confidence is a feeling in your body. It's about trusting yourself, as much as kind of a cognitive sort of process as well, in terms of connecting and knowing what you want to say and having your content. But feeling confident is a feeling in your body. So we want to practice it to ground it in our
Yes.
being, if you like.
Yes, so then we can draw on it when we need it, I
Yes.
suppose. Yeah, yeah. So in terms of creating that safe environment, what role do leaders play in creating that environment within the workplace or for their teams, so that people do feel safe to speak up?
Yeah, leaders play a critical role, because speaking is relational. So we can have something to say, we want to speak from in terms of our own sense of self. However, psychological research in the area of psychological safety shows that the number one fear that people have around speaking up in the workplace is the fear of judgment. And so if a leader tends to be judgmental, providing feedback like, that's worse than you did last time, or that's not the right time to say that, or anything along the lines of judgment or comparative kind of comments, is going to create the environment that makes it harder for people to speak up. And so for leaders, it's important to hold a space that is a non-judgmental space, that welcomes all voices, that encourages that diversity, different perspectives, and has that and has that kind of acceptance and welcoming around that. So leaders play an important role, and also doing as much as we can to remove the influence of power and hierarchy, or power differentials, I should say, and hierarchy. So creating that sense that we're all equal, all voices are valued. We want to hear all different perspectives.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? Because when people do finally get the courage to speak up, if they're sort of knocked back, or they're quashed, or they're sort of, dismissed, then it doesn't really encourage them to do it again, does it?
No, that's right. And that's, we've heard about this quiet quitting, right? People are just kind of doing what they, the minimum. I mean, and that's what contributes to that kind of thing. Like, oh, well, if my voice isn't valued,
then
why would I speak up? What's the difference? I'm not making a difference. It doesn't matter. It feeds into some of those kind of excuses that we might have ourselves when we don't speak up, is that, oh, well, yeah, why would I speak up if my voice doesn't matter? And that's actually a really, it's a really important thing to note for leaders, because if we're saying to ourselves, if someone's saying to themselves, my voice doesn't matter, it's like, I don't matter.
Yes,
And
that's
that
right.
comes back to, we talking about true worth and worth. And if I feel as though my voice doesn't matter and I don't matter, I'm not valued, then I don't have that sense of worth here in this workplace. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when we then feel, as you say, undervalued. We feel like our contribution doesn't matter, and then why would we bother to go the extra mile. So
Yeah.
people they'll either quit or they'll just quit altogether.
Yes.
And try to find a more conducive environment where they will be valued.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then the cost to an organisation is significant for that, because we're losing out on contributions in terms of innovation and collaboration, creativity. All of those things become harder and harder to draw out of our people.
Yeah, for sure. And over your experience in your career and your lifetime, are there times when you yourself have felt that you were underestimated? And were people perhaps surprised when you did speak up and they heard what you had to say?
Yes. Look, I think about when I graduated. So I graduated as a dietitian, and I was really, one of the things you have to do in that profession is obviously counsel people and speak to people one-on-one. I've always been more comfortable speaking like on a stage to, 100 people than one-on-one situation. And at the end of my study, the lecturer, one of the key lecturers, she said, oh, I'm not too sure how, Sharon's going to go in a counselling situation, because she's a bit, didn't use the word introverted, but a little bit shy, a little bit, finds it a little bit hard to communicate. And so I think about, then fast forward, probably within 10 years of graduating, I was speaking in the media and presenting doing all these things. But, so yeah, I guess underestimated in terms of what I was capable of. But also I think I've underestimated myself as well in terms of what I've been able to do when I reflect back. Yeah, I think we often underestimate ourselves until we're put into a situation where we get stretched and we realize, I can actually do this.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably we've all experienced that at one time or another. But I think, like you've talked about, the more we can stretch ourselves, then it actually pushes the envelope further and further, doesn't it? And then next time that is not hard anymore. Next time we
Yes.
do something, bigger or better or different. So
Yes.
it's always this process of pushing yourself a little bit further each time. And I think that once people can see that, even if they are surprised the first time, well, the next time they're not, are they? So the next
That's right.
they actually have higher expectations for you. And so, then you have to deliver on it. So, so I think that's important. Are there some times, though, when we'd be better off not to speak up? Like, are there some considerations we need to sort of think about before we blurt something out that might end up being inappropriate or, not really, the right thing to say in that situation?
Yeah, look, I think wherever there's high emotion or the environment's not safe, it can be better to not speak up, to hold off what it is that you want to say, to disconnect from the situation. So removing yourself can be a way to create influence. It's another kind of way to be in control of the situation, to know that, okay, this is not safe, or this is not welcoming, or I know my voice is not going to be heard. The person I'm speaking with or the environment's too emotional. It doesn't feel safe. So putting things on hold and saying, why don't we come back when everybody's calmed down, or something like that. So yeah, in that scenario where the environment doesn't feel safe. So yeah, speaking up is relational, and so we do need to take into account what it is that we want to say, and the environment that we're in, the person that we're speaking with. But there's also what ways that we can work to communicate in a way that helps us to be heard, recognizing and hearing others and acknowledging others, and others' perspectives. So if we're saying something that might be different to what somebody else says, we can make sure that we're hearing the other person's perspective and appreciating that, and then saying, and I'd like to share this perspective. And so being able to maintain calmness and respect of others in our communication
Yes.
can be a way that we can still get a point across in an environment where there are different perspectives. And it's so important, whenever it comes to innovation or growth or areas where we're wanting to contribute to make things better, we need to be able to communicate in a way that we feel comfortable getting our perspective across, without, creating a big hoo-ha.
Yeah.
Without
creating or exacerbating conflict, or
yes, without telling people, it's got to be my way or the highway or anything like that. And I think that's one of the things these days that we do need to do a lot of work on, particularly when we're kind of in an environment where social media lends itself to outrage and rants and all that sort of thing.
And there is, as you say, there's this, you need to be a bit measured sometimes when, yes, you might have something to say, but this might not be the right moment, or perhaps, as you say, well, let's just pause or sleep on it, or come back with a bit of, a bit more thought around it, so that we don't, hurt people's feelings. Or actually, if we're in that situation where someone's not willing, in fact, to listen yet, then perhaps we waste our words, I suppose, as well. So given what you've said there, so would you say that listening is an important part of speaking up?
Yes, for sure. Listening is, and listening is a key skill as well. It can be hard for people if they're feeling nervous around speaking up to actually maintain focus, to be able to listen properly. And there's a physiological reason for that when we're nervous and our vagus nerve is activated, it infiltrates our voice box and our hearing. So, our voice can sound shaky, and our hearing, it's much harder to hear both ourselves and others. And so, yes, being able to speak and listen to and take on others' perspectives, and to respond in a way that maintains calmness, recognizes others, and puts your own opinion forward these are skills that we often need to learn. They don't necessarily naturally, they're not necessarily naturally there.
It's not something we've necessarily explicitly been taught. It's something we might pick up by our observations, but then sometimes our role models are not shining examples, are they? So
that's right.
we can just as easily pick up the bad behaviours as the good ones, I suppose.
Exactly. Yes.
So, Sharon, you've talked a bit about creativity and how that's really important, and certainly it's really essential for innovation and growth, and solving our greatest challenges that we have in the world at the moment. So, for yourself, how do you nurture your creativity in your daily life?
I love writing, and so I'm an avid journal writer, and I used to, when I was younger, I used to write poems. I've got sort of a book of poems that I used to write. And so it's a real therapeutic and creative outlet for me. Recently, I was involved in a course, and one of the things we had to do was write a story connected to part of our life. And I was like, like straight away, like all this stuff pours out of me. And so I tend to be full of words, like as in writing, getting it out and writing. And I love playing with words. So coming up with ways of saying things that rhyme and ring, have a ring to them, help them to be. I love playing around with words. So I love doing little Instagram posts where I'm playing around with words or putting quotes. I love quotes. So anything to do with writing and creativity around writing or quoting or that sort of thing, I really enjoy.
What's the difference between writing something, like you say, that you might put on an Instagram post or in a journal that nobody's going to read, apart from yourself, compared to saying something in a meeting, or speaking up with our physical voice to say something, rather than putting it down on paper? What's the difference between those two
Yeah.
things, do you think?
Yeah. You need both. Well, so it's safe to write your thoughts in a journal, and it's vulnerable to speak your thoughts out loud to others. So speaking up is opening up. It's about sharing what's going on in the inside with the outside world. So it is a moment of vulnerability, and so it does require a certain amount of courage to do that, to be able to stand in that kind of vulnerability and feel safe enough to do that. There's a quote by Coco Chanel. She says, "The most courageous act in the world is still to think for yourself aloud."
Aloud.
So it's the
Yes.
allowed part. Certainly for me, that's been the challenge and been the area that I've been working on and work with others on. I mean, both of them, but yes, thinking for yourself. So knowing what you want and what you need, that's the self-connection part. And then allowed is like the self-expression part. So I really, really love that quote because it encapsulates so much. So journal writing is safer than standing up and speaking and sharing your thoughts, but journal writing for me has been therapeutic.
It still provides some clarity, doesn't it? I have a quote up here, actually, looking at quotes on my wall here, and I got this from the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I'll just grab it, and it's by Sir Francis Bacon, and he says, "Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man." Or woman, obviously, but back then,
Yes.
So but I think that's really about, well, when we put things into words, whether that's in a journal or quite often in a conversation as well, it clarifies things in our own mind, and that might make us more confident to then speak up about it too, once we've kind of had that opportunity to put it into some sort of, make sense of it.
Yes, and certainly writing, sort of sharing your writing is definitely a form of self-expression. I mean, there's lots of components, lots of parts of self-expression. Speaking one, writing one, how you dress, how you present yourself, all that's all part of it. So writing and sharing it with the world is part of that, and an avenue that we can use too, to be heard, to be seen.
Excellent. So looking back, Sharon, on your career so far, and you've had a few changes along your journey, but what brings you the greatest satisfaction in the work that you do?
Helping people now to find their voice, to be able to communicate something that they're passionate about in a way that helps them to be heard. And just coming out of this, we had a self-confidence circle meeting today, and someone I've been working with, and there are a couple of people in there, they're just so passionate about what it is that they want to say. But they get so nervous about saying it. And so we have this kind of meeting point of, I've really got something to say, but I find myself getting so nervous, or I freeze, I lose my place, I can't remember what I want to say. And so helping people to have their voice heard, helping them to overcome or manage that nervousness, put together their message in a way that helps with clarity, is really what I really find really rewarding. And this one lady I'm working with at the moment, she's running for local council, she's blind, and there's never been anybody in local council who's been a councillor who's blind, and she brings this real passion around, of course, disability and services around that, but an understanding about what it's like to, have a difference. And just to be able to, I just imagine having more diversity in local council and the benefit that brings to a community. That just makes me really, happy and contented and satisfied that the work that I'm doing can help people to spread their messages that matter.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, for anyone who is considering their next steps, whether that might be running for council or it might be going for a promotion or for a new job or whatever it might be, what advice would you have for them?
that if you're, with the commitment that you have, if the commitment that you have, and if you can see yourself taking that next step, and, advancing and whatever it is that you want to do, then you do have it in you to achieve that. And so having that belief and finding a way to tap into that confidence, or, to bring that to fruition, is it's about maintaining or having self-belief, which we can say have self-belief. It's harder to sometimes do, but coming back, I guess, to the point of, little actions build confidence, is what's the smallest possible thing you could do to, take that next step toward getting that new job, or, getting that advancement, or doing that thing, or climbing that mountain, whatever it is that you want to do. Really, what's the smallest tolerable thing that stretches you but doesn't put you into massive discomfort that has you kind of become frozen, procrastinate, and do that and keep doing that. The smallest thing that puts you into action.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, I think that's really good advice. So this is the True Worth podcast, and when we embrace our true worth, that helps us to be respected, valued, and seen. So Sharon, for yourself, how do you embrace your true worth?
There's the self-care part of it, which is, around meditation and exercise and eating well, and not drinking as much coffee and wine as I used to. It's helpful. So that's about valuing myself, and also valuing myself in terms of being able to perform at my best. Also to know and to keep reminding myself that my values and needs, or my needs, are more valuable than the need to please others and compromise and fit in. I have to keep reminding myself of that, because I haven't seen it that way in the past. So that my needs are valuable, and so that's how I build my self-worth, or keep reminding myself of myself, and practice what I preach in terms of, what's a small action that I can take today that's going to continue to build my confidence to do the things that I want to do. To be able to help others the way I want to help others.
Yeah, fantastic. That's excellent, Sharon, and so great to hear what you have to say around all of this. Now, I know, as I said at the beginning, you're working on a book, Why Smart People Don't Speak Up, but you also have some other resources available that people can access. So where can people go if they'd like to find out more about you and your work?
The best place to go would be my website, which is SharonNatoli.com, and there you'll find links to my social media and also a contact form. But my email is Sharon@SharonNatoli.com. And we'll share a link to a white paper, 2 white papers actually that I wrote. One is Find Your Voice at Work, which looks at the barriers that hold us back. So that's good for individuals if you're wanting to speak up with more confidence and grow your influence in the workplace. And then a white paper which is called Why Smart People Don't Speak Up and How Leaders Can Help. So what leaders can do to help. So for any leaders that are looking to create the conditions or to understand more about what holds people back and what they can do to help, then there's a link. There'll be a link for that. Connect the podcast as well.
Okay, fantastic. We'll put all those links on the page for this episode. So thanks for sharing that, Sharon. That's fantastic. And thank you for being with us today. This has been a great conversation. It's wonderful to hear about the amazing work that you're doing. If this conversation has sparked your interest, then I'd love for you to come and join us in the True Worth community, where you can share insights, ideas and inspiration with others about embracing our true worth. So you can find us at trueworth.mn.co, and look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks very much, Sharon.
Thanks, Monique.